Hello and welcome to the Buckets and Tea NBA show. I'm your host, Cathryn Naiker. Thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode. Today, our guest is comedian extraordinaire and host of the Confederacy of Dunks NBA podcast, friend to the show. Welcome back, Freddie Rivas. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me back. It's always a blast being on the show.
Oh, my pledge. This week you kind of bailed me out, so super appreciate that.
Hey, we all need a bailout person, right?
Yeah, we always do. It's so crazy. We just before we started recording, we were talking about how we just passed the 2-year anniversary of Rudy Gobert touching all the mics and effectively shutting down the NBA with COVID.
I still remember that night. My wife was like heading to bed, and like right as she was heading to bed, I was like, "Hey, so Rudy Gobert got COVID. The NBA is gonna stop, and Tom Hanks has COVID too." And she's like, "What? Leave me alone. I'm going to sleep." And I was like totally freaking out.
I remember that day too, and I remember feeling really freaked out. And I wasn't staying at my place. I was dog sitting for a week. So I was staying over at this other place because I was sitting this dog. And I remember thinking, like, I think people are going to start panicking. I, at home, and I'm going back home in 2 days, am low on toilet paper. And then I looked at Amazon.ca for toilet paper. And already it was madness. This is like Wednesday night. I ordered just one pack of Cottonelle toilet paper, like 16 rolls or something, cost me $22.50.
Oh my God.
And it was the cheapest one available. And prior to that, I went on Instacart online to put in like a grocery order, and they were sold out on Instacart. So I sucked it up. I paid for the toilet paper. I put in my Instacart order that was going to be available like 2 days later. And the guy was just in a complete panic. The grocery stores were in a frenzy. He kept like messaging me through the app being like, "This is not available. Do you have an alternative? This isn't available. Do an alternative." Like eventually I just had to get on the phone with the guy and I was like, "Look, buddy, I'm so sorry. I placed this order days ago. This is worse than I thought. Just do what you can, man. Just do." I would not have put you through this through Instacart had I known. Just do what you can. And I super appreciate it. And he was like, okay. And then when he came to drop it all off, like I tipped him like an extra $10 just for like dealing with the chaos for me.
Well, I was just gonna say you're a better person than I, because I didn't even try to buy toilet paper. I just went on the streets and started kicking people's asses, and just fisticuffs everywhere, high kicks, Muay Thai elbows. Like I was hurting people bad for TP in the early, beginning hours of the pandemic.
Oh,
like
man.
I was pretty much like really, really predatory stuff. Like,
yeah. Well, if anyone in the Dundas West area needs to report Freddie Rivas.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to jump me for what I did to you for your TP, that's fair.
Oh my God, what a crazy time. And we're still not completely out of this pandemic, which is wild. But I mean, not to go too far deep into that, but just thinking like, oh man, it's the 2-year anniversary of the shutdown. Mm-hmm. And just thinking about, I remember like Adam Silver being like, we're going to give it 30 days. We're going to give it 30 days and see how we are and reevaluate. And it's like 2 years later, like, oh my God.
Folks, we're going to give it 30 days and then we're going to start talking about playing basketball at Disney in a giant bubble. Is that normal?
Yeah. That's going to cost us $100 million. No other sports league will do the same. and we'll realize that economically we didn't have to care about this as much as we did, and then we're going to completely backtrack on all our morality.
That's the tea. That's the tea. You're coming with the tea now. Money.
Yes, I am.
Money.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Because I remember all last year, I was like, it could still say BLM on the court if we wanted it to. I don't know why that messaging disappeared from the NBA, at least on on a very visible level. But
yep, seriously.
yeah. Anyway, what a time. What a time. Freddie, a lot of crazy topics to get into this week. One thing I want to talk about a little bit here is WNBA's Brittney Griner. If you haven't heard yet, she has been detained in Russia for having an undisclosed amount of cannabis oil on her while traveling to Russia. So Freddie and I co-host a WNBA podcast called The Pickup. We released an episode earlier this week where we detail that case at great lengths. If anybody wants to check that out. I just wanted to mention it here because I feel like it's a very serious topic. I think it's the biggest story in sports right now. I think people are afraid to talk about it. And I think people are afraid to talk about it because they're worried that Russia's going to use Brittney as a political pawn. Personally, I feel like we're already there. Personally feel like they're absolutely already using her as a political pawn because she was detained over 3 weeks ago, and that news only came out in North America on Saturday. She traveled to Russia before the war was declared against the Ukraine, and she's been playing basketball in Russia since 2014. So I kind of feel like the writing is on the wall as far as that goes, but I do appreciate that people want to handle it delicately and with care. And I'm definitely going to continue to follow this story quite closely. But for now, I am signing petitions and putting it out there to free Brittney Griner. And to, apparently the U.S. government is working to bring her back home. I don't think our silence is going to help. But again, I mean, I don't know. I don't have all the answers, but that's how I currently feel as we record this on Thursday, March 10th, evening time. How do you feel, Freddie?
I'm totally with you. We were talking a little bit before the pod, and I feel like sometimes the instinct is to be quiet and hope something will just kind of like self-resolve. And you also don't want to instigate Putin or Russia or the apparatus that has detained Griner unlawfully. I'm just going to go ahead and say, like, whatever legitimacy is people are trying to put on this is silly. Like, I feel like that's not even a conversation that deserves to be had. In regards to like the vape pen or whatever, to me, it's sort of like it's a clearly like unlawful detainment, and I think they're clearly using Brittney as some type of political leverage or pawn. Like, just a CNN article I was just reading, it's now Brittney and 2 Americans being held by Russia.
Oh, so it's 3 people total.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't even know. It looks like 2 men. I'm not sure who they are or what the deal is, but like already the conversation is very much like, we have something that you want. But I totally agree with you. You have to be loud about it. You have to be upset about it. And I don't think it's going to help Brittney in any way for people to be quiet and cross their fingers.
Yeah. It's really tough. And like, I get when people are higher profile that they would be scared potentially to speak up because you don't want to make things worse. Like I during the Raptors broadcast last night, I'm looking at Kia Nurse. Like, Kia Nurse and Brittney Griner are teammates. I don't know if a lot of Raptors fans know that, but they are teammates on the Phoenix Mercury. And like, you got to think like she's got to be feeling something.
If Kia didn't tear her ACL, she might be playing. Like, I'm not sure what she plays overseas, but
Right.
she might be overseas playing. So yeah, this is a very real thing. Yeah, I mean, and again, we covered a lot on the WNBA pod, but there's a lot of crisscrossing narratives here about equal pay in sports and why Brittney was in Russia in the first place. And yeah, it's really frustrating and upsetting. And I encourage anyone who doesn't know about it to educate yourself about it and to be loud about it, because I think if there's anything that's encouraging, that's even a stretch, but like anything that's positive that I've seen is that Brittney's partner has been profusely thanking people for being loud about this.
Yeah. And, things could change as time goes on, as the days go on. But for now, that's how we feel. And I just felt like it was really important to talk about. And yeah,
I'm glad you brought it up.
Oh, thank you. And also too, like, I do think this will change players' approaches to playing internationally going forward, both for women's basketball and men's basketball.
I think so. Yeah, it's a scary scenario.
Yeah, because it's like a lot of men play basketball in China, and they're also a communist country, and like, you know what I mean? Like, I think the political landscape could affect these things for a lot of players going forward.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that you are, more than just like an athlete doing your job and could be used as political leverage is terrifying, and I think is going to greatly diminish players' want to go play somewhere. That changes everything.
Okay, let's move on to other NBA topics. So currently, we're recording this during the Philadelphia 76ers Brooklyn Nets game. People have paid up to $4,000 for tickets to this game. Like, Ben Simmons is not playing. Wow. He's there. He's on the bench. Like, the idea that you have $4,000 to boo someone who wanted a trade, who didn't show up, but also
fans are wild, man.
But also their team like threw him under the bus after, like, it's not a shock that Ben Simmons wanted a trade. Like, and then I just, like, I was watching Serge Ibaka's How Hungry Are You? And I was like, we need a show called Who Hurt You? And it's just like a circle for fans to reconcile their pain. Because it's like, that is just, if you have $4,000 to boo Ben Simmons, you have $4,000 for therapy for why you want to boo Ben Simmons that badly.
People say that Raptors fans have no chill, and they're right. But Philly fans also have no chill. There's something about a tortured fan base that, like, they're just ready to snap. And like, because I've seen a lot of people talking about when Vince left Toronto, Bosch left Toronto. It's less of a thing. But like when LeBron left Cleveland, it's like these guys left, and their team was immediately horrible. Philly is doing great. So yeah, the holding on to that animosity feels like you're more in, like, I don't know, you're more just like raw anger, like bully territory, I think.
Oh man.
And like some of it's like it's because with the tragic stuff, some of it's harmless fun. But yeah, you do get the fans out there who are like pretty venomous, and it's like, this is a bad look.
Yeah, I didn't get to do an episode last week, but man, some people were booing Dragic like it was Vince Carter all over again.
I know. Like, we have no chill. It's like, it's okay. Things are all right.
Like, literally, the team asked him to leave. Like, he didn't even quit on the team.
Yeah, I mean,
he said in the summer he was shocked to be traded here. He didn't necessarily want to play here. Then he backtracked that. He did show up. He was a good sport. All the guys on the team seem to like him and think he's generally a nice guy. He was asked to leave. He was traded. He didn't demand a trade, and it is what it is.
Some people, I feel like they use sports to let the hate flow. You know?
Yeah, I
They
mean,
just
here,
they channel their like anger, and they're like, I mean, I've done it. I've been fury. I was like yelling at Garnett during the Brooklyn Raptors series, like pretty angrily. You know what I mean? I don't know what I was saying, but I think there's some venom that gets released with sports.
yeah, I mean, my personal theory is just, generally speaking, men are not taught to express their emotions,
Yeah.
and men have to repress their feelings all the time. And sports is one of the few areas where we let men go off. So
Yeah.
it's like
And boy, do they ever, right?
every repressed thing a male sports fan has felt about their mother, their father, their ex, you name it. It's like it's all on Goran Dragic. Like,
I know. Yeah,
or
like
whatever it happens to be, or it's all on Ben Simmons right now, and,
yeah.
and it's like that, and it's that emotional tie to sports really fuels the economy of sports in this messed up way.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like it really, I think that's a big part of the, as I call them, like kind of like transaction fans. Like that's sort of like the movement, the drama of sports, like the kind of like the opera, or not opera, but like what am I
The
looking for?
drama.
The drama. No, soap opera. That's what I'm looking for. The soap opera element of the sport, not the opera. Yeah. But yeah, that element of kind of like wanting to have villains and heroes, and also like wanting your hero to fall, and like what the reality TV portion of the NBA is very alive and well. People like to
Yeah.
watch former heroes squirm, right? It's a big
Yeah.
it's not some I don't like it. I think it's so gross, but it is a big part of fandom.
It is. I mean, people are, I mean, the way I abbreviate it is just they are irrationally, emotionally invested. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's really what it is. And everything is fueled by that in this really weird way. And I'm just watching, people pay so much money. You can go to Italy for a month for $4,000. Like there's just so much you can do with $4,000 than just boo Ben Simmons. And he's not even playing.
$5,000, you can go to Italy with Ben Simmons. Imagine.
I wonder what
like,
I think Ben Simmons might be okay in Italy. I think I could see him in Tuscany doing a little wine tasting.
oh man, he'd be so chill.
Yeah, I think he'd be all right. Yeah, just absolutely crazy. There's a lot of this going on this week because it isn't just Ben Simmons, but Russell Westbrook spoke out earlier this week about some of the bullying and taunting that he and his family, more specifically his family, has had to deal with this season as the Lakers and him personally, or sorry, not personally, but professionally have struggled. And, he talked about how like he can't bring his kids to the games anymore. He felt, really, sad or disheartened about the Westbrook nickname as it, defames his name. It was really interesting for him to speak out about that because he's usually quite cold with the media. I'd say like he has a reputation for not being very warm with the media, but I guess he decided this was something he wanted to open up about. And there was a reporter that gave him the opportunity to do so. So I think that was maybe a discussion prior to him talking about this. I don't know. I have varying opinions around this actually. Like on one hand, obviously I do not endorse bullying in any way. Obviously, I think death threats are wrong. Again, if you can afford to pay to go to these games, you can afford to talk to somebody about why you're feeling the way you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
From strictly a basketball perspective, I do think that Westbrook has a bit of a delusional quality to him. And I think
Yeah.
there's been a lack of personal accountability on his part for the way he's played this season.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a resistance and a lack of willingness to change or adapt the way he plays to better fit a whatever team model he happens to be a part of.
Mm-hmm.
And I think him speaking out about his family and his wife and his kids having to deal with this bullying, I have all the empathy in the world for that. And I also feel like I hold at the same time this lack of personal accountability and how it hurts every team that he's on now. And it's like I don't want I don't want that, like the fans being crazy or wild or outrageous, to prevent him from, quote unquote, like seeing the light, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense, around his own game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair because sorry, it's not. It's the fair take of yours because it's a multiple truth scenario.
Mhm.
To me, he is sort of like the classic, like aging superstar who can't really. His game's not evolving in the right direction. We have guys like look at Kevin Love this year. Look at DeMar DeRozan, who actually maybe DeMar's not even the best example because DeMar sort of has like proven that his way of playing is good,
Right.
and he's become more efficient. So maybe that's not the best example, but yeah, Russell is definitely one of these guys who he is so wildly skilled. He's was an MVP and kind of like out hustled people his whole career, and he's reaching this age where it's like you're in your 30s, like you can't out hustle everyone, and your poor shooting has become this kind of, I mean, that's a whole kind of like a adjacent thing to this. Like I find it interesting that guys that can't shoot really get the most negative ire. Like I wonder if that's
Mm.
like uh, an effect of analytics where people are so upset with the lack of efficiency in a player, whether it's DeMar or Westbrook or Ben Simmons and his free throws. It's like that. It's just like, that's it. It's just like, they can't overlook anything. Like, I know we're just talking about, we've moved on from Ben Simmons, but
Mhm.
to me, the duality of him being runner-up defensive player of the year and being such a like awful player in people's eyes,
Mhm.
it's so interesting to me. It's like how we can't meet in the middle there. I don't understand. And I feel like that's a part of, for me, the Westbrook narrative is, I mentioned earlier, we like to see people fall, right? And Westbrook went from this guy who, called Durant a cupcake for leaving to Golden State, and he's stuck with OKC, and he's sort of like a person that people idolize for his loyalty and all these things, all these kind of really brave, qualities in a person. But then his decline and the fact that he's kind of been passed around in trades has put him in this situation where, yeah, it's a bunch of things because he's not adapting. People are being cruel, I think, and also he's getting paid so much, so it's this max contract aspect. Sorry, I went in a bunch of different directions, but I think it's kind of a mess, and I agree with you that there is a lack of accountability, at least as far as the way that Russell's playing.
Yeah,
Um,
and I'm only speaking about the way he's played this year when I say that. Yeah, cuz I think like you know, I think like you said, when you are an aging star in the NBA, we do see players go through this phase where it's hard for them to reconcile where they're at, because I guess like mentally they're like, I can do the things I did 5 years ago, and then like physically they can't.
Carmelo,
And
Iverson, like it
yes,
happens.
yes, we've seen it many times, even with Kobe,
Definitely
honestly.
with Kobe. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And like,
Those last Lakers years were not good for anyone that played with him.
I know everyone remembers that last game
It
against
was a cool game.
Utah.
Going out on 60 against Utah was amazing, but like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it was very Hollywood, the whole thing.
it
But
was.
and the goodbye tour that he did. But yeah, I just think like, you know, eventually you get to a point where like, you know, the numbers don't lie. And I think if you're Westbrook, you got to be looking at these numbers and thinking like, I need to work with somebody to improve my shooting percentage. Like at a certain point, you're like, I need to work with someone to do this. Like you can't just be like, it's the world against me all the time
And
and
there
never
is a
change.
roadmap for it. Like this Jason Kidd, right? Famously was like not a good shooter and could do everything. Was this explosive point guard that could like run the floor and whatever. And I'm not exactly sure where he finished, but he's like really high on the all-time three-pointers made list, because part of what he did, Vince Carter, right? Part of what they
Mm-hmm.
did is they became these guys that are like, all right, I'm just gonna, like, I want to stick around and become this kind of like, I want to win. I want to be an efficient,
I
uh,
mean, Kevin Love is also a
guy.
great example about how he, well, I mean, not maybe not a great example because he was a curmudgeon for several years, but
Yeah,
you know, he really did work on his outside game and he really reinvented his game, and he is an effective team player now. And I think we're going to see Westbrook go through a similar thing. I think, you know, something that would must be frustrating for the fans is that this is happening in the timeline of LeBron with
yes, that's a
only
big part
so
of it.
much time left, and these are supposed to be the last years of his career. And really, like Anthony Davis and these other players were really supposed to be able to take over, so LeBron could be the number 2 on the team instead of the number 1 on the team. And that transition hasn't really happened. And sorry, go ahead.
I just have to say, I'm just like pulling up Russell's stats,
Mm,
and it's wild to be talking about him like this. So on Washington last year, he finished averaging a triple double and led the league in assists.
wow. That's
So,
incredible.
so that's also, yeah. I mean, like that. I think that's part of it. It's got to be difficult for him, where he's sort of like, I can do like 85% of what I could do.
It
You know what I
just
mean?
it sucks
Yeah.
how that doesn't equal wins.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly it. And that's where the efficiency comes in, right?
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know how long Westbrook has to go through it to see it for what it is, to see all of it for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just it's a difficult time. And now we have like LeBron, you know, I think I talked about this a bit on the last episode I did, but you know, like during the All-Star game or All-Star weekend, dropping hints that LA might not be his last stop after all.
Yeah. I kind
Which
of love that, to be honest.
say more.
Well, I just love that. I mean, any type for me, like any of the major markets, I always just kind of like enjoy them. Not like I love the organic teams. So when a bunch of superstars get together and it doesn't work,
Mm.
I quite enjoy that. So and also for LeBron's legacy, I think it would be kind of cool to go to another team. Like he might, who knows how many more years he has, and yeah, if he goes back to Cleveland or whatever, it'd be fun.
Yeah, I think him going to Cleveland to end his career and potentially winning another ring in Cleveland, because a lot of analysts have said like actually LeBron would be an amazing fit on that team and it could really put them over the edge. What a Cinderella type ending to his career, you know?
Right.
That would be like it's actually a better ending than LA, and I think LeBron is someone who cares deeply about narratives. But he also said that he really wants to play with his son, and that's also another goal of his. And Bronny is available for the draft in 2024.
I love that.
So
Bronny is the golden ticket.
Bronny's the golden ticket. So
OKC is gonna get Bronny, and I'm like, you said.
we'll see. I mean, I think, we're going to be revisiting this LeBron era with the Lakers in a lot of different ways, I think, for many years to come, and Westbrook is a part of that. And I think for his sake, I hope he can find a way to adapt his game a bit.
Me too. I love Westbrook.
Yeah, I do too. Years ago when he was still on OKC with Kevin Durant, I got to see a game in person here in Toronto, and I had like good seats. Like they weren't like, like courtside, but they were very good seats. And watching him in person, it's like the amount of athleticism this guy has felt like nothing I'd ever seen in my life.
It's out of control. He definitely is one of the only people who, in my opinion, does like NBA Jam style dunks.
Right.
Like just like rude and like wild dunks that I hadn't foreseen. And like, I don't know if that was the game, but I remember being at like a Westbrook OKC game where he caught, it was just this weird play where he, like, I think either he was taking the free throw or someone else was, but he caught a free throw and laid it up all in one motion, like a missed free throw. And it was like, it was like, you just had to watch it over and over to be like, how did this happen?
The game I went to, it went to double overtime, and Kevin Durant hit a game-winning shot.
Yeah.
Against us. So I don't recall if that was the same game or not, because I just remember being on my feet for a really long time because of the double OT. That was my big takeaway.
You're like, these dogs are barking, boys. Let's wrap it up.
Just real quick here, I wanted to tell you before we move on, this game, it's at halftime right now as we're recording this. The Nets, it's 72-51 for the Nets. And they've basically led by 20 points like the whole game.
So I think that basically stamps the argument. KD and Kyrie can't play together. They can't do it. It doesn't work.
Kyrie's having a hell of a week.
He really is.
The other night he scored 50 points. I watched a bit of that game because that game against Charlotte is such an important game for the standings, for the play-in, which we're about to move on to talk about. But nice. Yeah, I was like, wow, this guy's I really thought he had kind of quit on basketball, to be honest, but he was really on fire.
Kyrie has one of the weirdest careers I've ever watched unfold.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Like, just well, you're the person, I feel like a couple months ago you said, like, he just has this like air of like someone who doesn't enjoy his job, but is like crazy good at it. It's strange. It's not a quality you see in the NBA, right? Everyone is so desperate to be there, and then like, just like we're talking, like, be there for as long as they can. On top of that, like, you get in and you stay in as long as you can. And Kyrie has this whole approach, like, even I remember when he got drafted first overall, like, he barely even played any games for Duke, but still went first. And yeah, he just has this quality of kind of like, it's effortless. And I mean, it looks effortless, and it's wild. Like, he's absolutely putting on a show.
Yeah, like you said, like, he's really talented, but it's not necessarily his number one like thing in his life, which you're not used to seeing in athletes. The reason why I thought that was when I was thinking about his career, like, he demanded a trade from Cleveland, if I remember correctly, because he wanted to be the number one guy. That was a big thing. He didn't want to be in LeBron James's shadow anymore. He wanted to be number one. So then he goes to Boston and it doesn't work out. And then suddenly he was perfectly okay for being basically the the third guy when James Harden was with the Nets. And I was like, how does somebody go from wanting to be a leader, like not just the best, but be a leader, to being the number 3 important person on a team in a matter of just a few years?
Yeah, that whole situation, like I feel like a big part of it was I don't know if he had intel, but was sort of had the sense that LeBron was going to leave to go to LA. And I feel like he didn't want to, because like previously with Miami, it's sort of like LeBron left and the other guys were stuck there a little bit. There was that quality. Even Wade left Miami for a bit. And I think that he didn't want to become what Kevin Love was. So that was also a part of it. But yeah, the Boston thing was like extra strange. And then going to Brooklyn to me was like sort of an admission that, yeah, he's not like Kyrie might be like a flashy, incredible scorer, but like realistically, he's not a number one guy.
Yeah, and apparently, allegedly, not completely confirmed, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving talked about teaming up together back on the 2016 Olympic team, which is the same summer he initially signed with Golden State.
Wow.
That's a theory that's out there.
I believe
So
it.
it's like, yeah, it is. It's a really strange career. But okay, I thought you were gonna say something.
Oh no, just like my face is like, I agree.
Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk about Western Conference standings, and then in our Raptors Homer moment, we'll talk about the Eastern Conference. So, Freddie, the way things are shaping up, I don't actually think there's going to be a significant amount of movement in the Western Conference. The top 4 seems like you can't call it locked because it's too soon, but the Suns seem pretty cemented in the number 1 spot. Yeah. The Grizzlies and the Warriors at 2 and 3 seem pretty interchangeable. The Warriors are only 1 game behind. Then you have the Jazz, who are 3 games behind, and the Mavericks and Nuggets at 4, 5, and 6. And then in the play-in right now, Timberwolves, Clippers, Lakers, and Pelicans. And I feel like that 4 is going to be what it is. Like, I mean, the Timberwolves could go on like a huge winning streak, but I don't see the Nuggets or the Mavericks or even the Jazz like slipping so significantly that the Timberwolves would not be in the play-in.
Right.
I'm wondering, Freddie, who are you looking at in the West and who are you most intrigued by right now?
Well, a team that I'm pretty intrigued by, just like in a low level sense, is I think one of my bolder takes that I feel like was like, okay, I think I'm right about this, and it was playing out the way I expected. Was the Clippers? I before the year started, I said I don't think the Clippers are going to make the playoffs.
Oh,
But
before Paul George's injury.
Yeah, and like in my mind, I was like, we had Kawhi as a Raptor. He's not going to rush back. Paul's going to have to carry too much of the load, and is probably going to, maybe get injured or sit out or whatever. So I kind of was factoring that. Serge was injured, but Tyronn Lue, has done a really good job keeping this team competitive. And it would be pretty interesting. Like, I don't think Kawhi or PG are, about to come back or anything, but that changes a lot if they do, either of them. And I think it's been almost a year since Kawhi's injury. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens there. And then of course, like even without Zion, I find the Pelicans really intriguing because it seems like the McCollum grab, at least in the short term, is working. Like they're a little bit better, although I think Brandon Ingram just got like a 7-week or 10-week injury. So
yeah, they've lost their last 3 games.
Yeah. So maybe a little less interesting than I was giving it credit for, but
well, the initial trade was super interesting because I interpreted it as like David Griffin really trying to keep his job, that the Pelicans needed to make this play in no matter what. and maybe they're hanging on by thinner strings than I'm giving, them credit for right now. Cause I'm thinking like, I don't see the Trailblazers, the Spurs, the Kings, Thunder, or Rockets being in the mix. So I think they might just be 10th. I don't want to say by default, but I think it could just work out for them in that spot. I'm really excited for the Timberwolves.
Yeah, the Timberwolves are very much like a quiet, feel-good story.
Yeah, and like, I realistically I don't see them getting out of the first round. I could very well see them getting out of the play-in. And I mean, if the playoffs were to start today, they'd be facing the Grizzlies, and that
That'd
would
be fun.
hands down be the funnest or one of the funnest series of the first round.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, also I'm looking at Denver Golden State. That would be pretty wild. But
Yeah, if it started today. Yeah.
Yeah, like Minnesota, I mean, like I really think that I mean, I've always been a believer in Towns, and I'm so excited for him that it's like they're in 7th, but they're like a team that deserves to be there. They're 11 games over 500, so they're like a legit like winning ball club. And D'Angelo Russell's doing good. Ant-Man is one of the more exciting players in the NBA. And yeah, it's kind of just like a feel good thing. Like, I don't know. I guess the last time they made it was like the Butler year, which felt like it was sort of like a temporary thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty intrigued by them. I think to me, Denver is super intriguing as far as like who's going to come back. How are they going to integrate, like, between like Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray? Like, I feel like those are two incredible players that really, like, Denver has a good record, and Jokic is having an MVP season again. So I feel like they're dangerous. The West is, I mean, the playoffs this year are I feel like we're still in the era of parity, right?
Yeah.
And I think we're headed for another finals, which might have two totally different teams. Maybe, who knows? Maybe it's Phoenix and Milwaukee. But like, I think there's a chance that it's like Philly and Denver or Philly and Utah. Or like it's kind of the healthiest team wins. And
God, a Philly Utah final. What a nightmare.
I mean,
don't you think?
For the NBA marketing team, certainly. They like, I think even Phoenix, Milwaukee, the NBA was like, no. Which is,
but then that turned out to be
because,
really fun.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go down a huge like a huge rant, but I mean, I think the NBA needs to, alter their marketing strategies. I feel like they market around like 10 to 15 superstars, and the breadth of fandom is much larger. And yeah, they need to, like, we need to not panic when it's like Utah's in the finals. Like, that has to be like, cool, they're one of the 30 teams. It's possible, but instead it's sort of like, no, we don't have LeBron or KD in the finals. And it's like, yeah, those guys are old, man. Like, we need to accept that time goes on, right?
That's like, so funny. Cause like, when you think about, you think back to the Jordan days, right? When it was the Bulls and Jazz, it was so obvious to make Karl Malone the like enemy.
Oh, 100%.
Right? Like the Jazz were the villains. And it was just so obvious and easy to do that. Where like something like Philly Jazz, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, what's going on here? Like, who's the bad guy? Yeah, because it's like you got Harden and Gobert, so people would be like, I don't know who to hate.
Yeah. Literally, like the last two picked in that All-Star draft, I think.
Yeah, it would be like the most unpopular dudes finals.
Yeah, really losing the popularity contest. Okay, let's move on to our Raptors Homer moment, and let's talk about the Eastern Conference. So, talk about, we were talking earlier about irrationally, emotionally invested sports fans here. I have a personal rant for you, Freddie, and you can talk me through this. So currently, as we record, Raptors are in 7th place. The way the play in bracket works is that it's 7th, 8th, and then 9th, 10th, and then the 7th, 8th place team gets a second chance, if that's right. I'm saying that right. So the Raptors are in 7th. We would play against the Brooklyn Nets first. By the looks of how mandates are being lifted currently, I think we're actually decent odds that Kyrie Irving would play in that game. Like, I don't know for
Looks
sure,
like
but
it. I mean, the speed of mandates for sure.
Yeah, if we're not checking vaccine passports for the fans, I don't know why we would hold it against Kyrie.
Totally.
So I think, he plays. Durant's helped back, so they're doing very well. I think odds
it comes down to 2 free throws. Ben Simmons can't hit them. We win.
See, Freddie, this is why I need you, because I'm having this crisis of like, okay, I'm afraid the Raptors are going to lose that game. And then I'm afraid, hear me out, that they will then win a subsequent game against the Hawks or the Hornets. And then the first round will be us against the Miami Heat. And I don't know if my heart can handle all of that.
I will faint if that happens. I can't comfort you there. I actually I called a Raptors Heat series 6-3. I thought the Heat were going to finish 3rd and we were going to finish 6th. That was sort of my like rough prediction. And this is going to sound even wilder. I think there's a really good chance we'd beat them. And I feel like, I feel like the matchup's really good.
Plead your case.
Well, let me just state the obvious, which is that the Heat are deeper. They have guys like PJ Tucker and, they have like more of a winning, thrust about them. They're a better team. They have a better record. I do, however, think that we have enough like youth to bother them. A lot of people worry about the big man issue. Wouldn't be an issue, period, in that series.
Against Bam.
Against Bam. Yeah, wouldn't be a problem. Barnes would be good against him, I think. And
so you'd move Barnes to the center position.
Barnes is a center at this point for me.
Okay, love it.
I'm
just asking for clarification. I'm not like.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a lot of things, but I think we've seen him, be physical with guys like Capella, Vucevic, Pirtle, like, legit centers in the league. And of course, would would he be able to like hold up against like Jokic or Embiid? Probably not. But those are like the MVPs of the NBA. So I don't know. That's okay. But yeah, I think as far as like the way Miami plays, I really think that the Raptors would be able to get a lot out of them. And, maybe I'm way off here, but there's a lot of interesting battles there. I mean, Fred Kyle is a really interesting battle.
Fred versus Kyle. Wow.
And I can't say for sure that I think Kyle would get the best of him because I feel like it would be pretty tight. Fred was an all-star this year. He deserved it. And there's just a lot of intriguing stuff in that series. I do think, though, like rationally speaking, their depth is massive. They just added Oladipo. Hero's having a great season. Gabe Vincent, and they got a lot going on. Max Strus, which is one of my, it seems like a made up name. Just got to say
Max Strus.
Yeah. Like just 2 syllables. Really, sir?
You say that like he had a say in it.
Yeah, you did. I feel like those were his first words, but yeah, anyway, so I just got into major hot take territory, but I would be cheering for every Kyle charge. So yeah, you went on a rant and I didn't help you at all. So sorry.
I think this is like a real emotional inevitability that us as Raptors fans really need to prepare for. Like, I think
we might also play DeMar. So
that was my initial fear at the start of the season, that we would play against the Bulls and DeMar would figure out how to be clutch, which he has this season, right? Like, and then that would be a whole thing because DeMar would have revenge energy through the goddamn roof if he
100%.
played against us in a playoff series. So that was my bigger fear over the Miami Heat. For me, it's just more like being just an emotional mess.
Yeah, it would be super messy. Like I love Kyle so much. Like even just watching that clip of him on, or that clip of DeMar on How Hungry Are You?
Oh my God, it was so great.
And DeMar talking about how he'd come back if Kyle was still here, and I was like, I can't handle it.
Yeah, I know. It was a lot. Yeah, all I'm saying is I'm looking at this and I'm like, I'm not prepared. I'm not prepared.
Yeah, I am certainly not prepared for that. Like I mean, for the drama, I kind of want it, but I really don't want it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the thing
Or maybe I
about
do. I don't know. It would be juicy. It'd be fun.
the thing about the East is like, and maybe I'm on an island with this opinion, but I can't imagine the playoffs without the Nets. I can't imagine the playoffs without us, but I also can't imagine them without the Hawks.
Yeah. I mean, the
Like,
Hawks got to be one of the more disappointing. I mean, Hawks, Portland, Knicks. Absolutely, no one thought their seasons were going to go this way.
yeah, like I was a real like bandwagon Hawks fan. I was always a Trae Young fan, and then everyone was like really shitting on him, and then I felt almost ashamed that I was a Trae Young fan. I was like, am I missing something? Then he had that amazing playoff run.
What a roller coaster.
I know. And then I was like, that's it. Trae Young is officially my son. I gave birth to him. He is mine. I love him so much. And and then this year, I mean, I still love him. And
I
he has
love
still
Trae.
personally been great.
Oh
But
yeah.
the rest of the team has really dropped off, especially defensively, which was a concern even last year. And then you know what? I'm not a Knicks fan at all, like at all, but it's a shame that this Knicks Hawks rivalry did not blossom the way we all hoped it would. Like that rivalry was really fun and really good for the league.
Yeah, it was a blast. Like that series was so awesome, and Trae really kind of like ate up Madison Square Garden and like bowing to the fans and like, you know, what was that one quote he had where he was basically like like when asked why he bowed, he was like, "This is like a theater, and I must entertain my fans." Or like,
Yes, yes.
he said something like that. I'm like, this guy is awesome. Like,
Yeah, I think he
how
even
do you not
referenced
love that?
yeah, he like referenced Broadway.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, buddy, you're fantastic for doing this.
Yeah, yeah. So, a part of me, there's a really silly part of me that almost doesn't want the Raptors to make the playoffs so I don't have to live through the anguish of this Heat Raptors series. But don't hold me to that, everyone listening. Just know that I'm in a place, and unlike other fans, I'm working through it.
Folks, if you're listening, don't give Cathryn any leeway or context. Come at her with all of your animus and, just like undeveloped ideas. Like, she loves that.
Oh my god. Another thing this week, Fred VanVleet came back last night against the Spurs. Got a nice win of that. Really spoiled the Gregg Popovich party there with him having the most wins of any coach in NBA history. Absolutely wild. I 1000% thought we were going to lose this game because I feel like other people just
dudes. And again, I'm not trying to diminish anything that those three dudes do, but Fred brings a certain kind of like poise and shooting to this team that it raises the basement of our offense so high, or so much higher than it was. And yeah, like just watching a competent squad again felt great.
Yeah, I mean, I was happy to see other players get minutes, so we could finally like give certain people a chance and see what's up.
Yes, yes.
I've been saying it for a little while now. Like, the remainder of this regular season, I think for me and for a lot of people is going to be figuring out who our seventh guy is and who our eighth guy is and who our top eight are going to be going into the playoffs, because I think our top 6 is pretty solid, but those last 2 spots continue to circulate, and I don't know for certain who those guys are. And I think giving them more time, even if it means a couple losses, is good, in that we need to solidify who they are, because I don't see Nick Nurse going into the playoffs with a shorter rotation, that, or with a bigger rotation than 8 players, and maybe even less. He might even only make it 7.
Yeah, I mean, he's done that before, right? So I feel like that's definitely coming, and I do hope we learn more, because just like thinking about like what Malachi did for the Raptors offense, it was like you can kind of see, it's like, oh right, he can do things that you just can't do if you're 6'7" or taller. Like he
Right.
can knife through the defense, and also Malachi has pretty incredible speed. So
Yeah.
that's massive, and like obviously having like a low turnover rate, and I think we focus on the shooting, which we should. Malachi needs to hit shots, but I really think just having like a steady hand out there, again, like as much as Pascal and Barnes can play make, there's just something that's like predictable, and I don't want to say natural, but kind of like more organic with a smaller guy handling the ball.
I completely agree. And it was nice to see him get a good stretch of games here post All-Star break.
And seize the opportunity. Like, people always say stay ready. Like he
Yes.
did,
Yes, absolutely. We're gonna move on to so I've been calling this the Nick Nurse Hot Girl Summer highlight of the week, but that song is several years old, and honestly, not every week does Nick Nurse have a hottie moment, but I'm thinking I want to call it the Nick Nurse hottie moment of the week.
Sure.
Just because the song's a little dated. I don't have
no judgment here on the name change.
I don't have rights to this song. So I think I'm going to transition into the hottie moment. And if it's like a really weird moment, I want to talk about like him getting ejected from that Pistons game, which I got to see in person and absolutely loved. Maybe
I love ejections, by the way. Like
I might call it the not so hottie moment if it's like real rough.
I like it.
But this week's hottie moment is if you don't know already, Nick Nurse is holding a coaching summit online this Sunday. It used to be a more private thing that he did for other people who are coaches, that he would run things through and talk about coaching with. But this year it's online, it's open to the public, it's free. And I've signed up, and I'm really excited for it. He's going to go through, just like his why am I why am I blanking on this word? His process. Yes, that's what I want to say. His process, his philosophy, all that good stuff. And I think it'll be really good and really informative and really fun. And who knows? Maybe the Arkells will drop by and they'll sing a song together or something crazy. Oh,
I think they will.
They're always there. They're always there. But anyway, no one pays me to promote these things, but I just thought that's really cool that he's doing that, and that it's open to the public, and that it's absolutely free. And
if you want to go in person, it will be in the Duffer and Bloor No Frills, where the Arkell shot the video.
That would be so perfect.
Deep Arkell reference. My bad.
That would be so fun though. If I think if you made an appearance at the No Frills, lineups would be around the mall for sure.
Oh, yeah. They'd sell it at Fisherman's Friends immediately.
Freddie, we have made it to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for joining me as always. Let people know, where can they find you on the internets?
Check me out on Twitter at Freddie Rivas, FreddieRivas, Freddie Noel Rivas on Insta. And I do two podcasts, Buckets and Tea with Cathryn. Check that out for sure.
That's this podcast, Freddie.
That is, oh my God, I think I did that last time.
You did this last time also.
Well, I got to work on this. Maybe just write it down, But the Pick Up a WNBA podcast on the Sonar Network, and also on the Sonar Network, a Confederacy of Dunks basketball podcast. That's my podcast with Matt Duncan. We are Raptors/NBA pod. Check us out.
Thanks so much. And you can find me on Twitter or Instagram at itsme_Cathryn, spelled Cathryn. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.